You might know them from the hit show 50/50 Flip. It's on Hulu. It's on A&E. You guys, we got the Polites on the show. We got Dedric and Krystal. These entrepreneurs learned how to work smarter, not harder, especially in the realm of real estate. And we're going to be digging into their journey, gleaning some wisdom from this amazing couple.
On this episode, we talked about what it looks like to be a visionary versus an integrator, how to work together, and what it really looked like in the very beginning of their relationship, which might surprise you what the route they chose to go on and how it actually has paid off for them now as a family first entrepreneur family.
So get excited. This is another episode of the Rainmaker Family Show. All right, welcome to another episode of the Rainmaker Family Show. We got an awesome guest today. You might know him from the hit show 50/50 Flip. Welcome, the Polites.
Hey, thanks for having us, guys.
Thanks for having me.
This is going to be a fun conversation because I want to dig into your guys' story. I want to dig into, you don't just go from, something to having a TV show overnight. So I want to hear a little bit about that journey. Before we do though, I think one of the questions I see a lot of entrepreneurs, they have this moment in their life, a moment where they kind of drew a line in the sand where they're like, man, we were doing something one way and we drew a line. We're like, we're no longer doing it that way. Do you guys have a story, like some sort of moment like that where you're like, okay, we're no longer going to do wealth building, do money making in a normal way? What's that moment for you guys?
I would think that moment for us was one that really sticks out to me was we were actually owners of a scooter rental business.
Oh, no way.
So if you ever been to the mall and you saw these little animal rides.
Oh, yeah. My 4-year-old always wants to be riding those,
Yeah. So we owned a few locations in different malls from New England here to in North Carolina. And they were profitable. So this was like maybe the second successful business we did together. So the first one was Airbnb. And that was kind of like an aha moment for us because we only got into that 2 months into dating. So we really, we're really getting to know each other. But my husband, Dedric, got fired from his job and being depressed and just not knowing what to do with himself and me having to have to do a little pep talk with him. And I was like, forget that job. That job lost you. You didn't lose that job. Go out here and find your true passion. This is what you're supposed to do. Find what God really ordained you to do. And it wasn't working in a cubicle at a software company. So here, he literally found Airbnb.
This is in 2012.
12. And it only been around maybe 2 years prior to. So we got into that together. And then we ended up getting into that scooter rental business. And for me, I'm the visionary. Dedric is the integrator. So I always come with all of these ideas, like crazy ideas. And I'm always bringing a business to him. So I brought him this business and he was like, yeah, no. Nah, this is not a real business. And I was like, so I said, okay. I knew what I had to do. I had to go back, get the numbers, because Dedric is a numbers person. So he brings numbers and it makes it. So then I had to go online, do more research, find a business plan, find somebody who was already doing it. And then I brought that to him. And he was like, oh, now this is a business. And we started it. But we were in it for about a year. Super successful. We were making what?
A couple $100,000 a year.
Yeah, a little over 200-something thousand a year.
Yeah, because I could guess that business got a good amount of startup expense by the equipment, but then you just renting space and
that's it at a mall.
Yeah, wow.
And I woke up one morning and I was like, "Yeah, let's sell." And he was just like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, let's sell. It's time." And he was like, "What are you talking about? Like, we're about to expand." We were literally looking at and negotiating with other malls to expand. And I ended up saying, no, I think we need to sell. He's like, are you sure? I said, we need to sell. And he said, all right. And we ended up putting it on the market with a broker, sold it. And then COVID hit.
And wow. Listen to your wife, fellas. If you're listening to the podcast. I have a mentor, he says, listen to God, but sometimes God sounds a lot like your wife. Man, that's what foresight have you seen that, Krystal, in your life that you kind of have that almost prophetic ability to see around corners a little bit? I think this is something that, women and mothers, especially we sometimes we call it mother's intuition. I'm like, man, I feel like there's something else there sometimes. Have you seen that trend in business that you kind of like can see things a little bit sometimes before they're coming?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, she's a total visionary. She sees things before they happen. For example, in our town, she'll be like, "It would be nice if it was a seafood restaurant here, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that would be cool." Lo and behold, 6 months later, there's a seafood restaurant there, lines around
Wow.
the corner, and she's just a true visionary like that.
Yeah. Wow. That's so cool. Talk about real quick the visionary integrator thing. Cause I know like we know what that is. Like we definitely have implemented that in our business, but that might be new language for some of our audience. Like they're, entrepreneurs. What is this visionary integrator? How do you know who's who? And I don't know, how does the visionary integrator work well together?
Yeah, so it comes from a book called Traction. We were in a mastermind, a high level mastermind of successful business owners. And they made us read this book called Traction by Gino Wickman. And the whole concept is that you have two types of people. You have visionaries, you have integrators. So after we
Mhm.
read the book, we figured out, okay, Crystal's a visionary who casts a vision, always coming up with new, creative, amazing ideas. And then every visionary needs an integrator. So the integrator is the person that does the X's and O's and the tactics and strategies that helps bring that vision to life. If
Mm.
you have two visionaries working together, sometimes you can kind of clash, or two integrators. So it's good to have those complementary skill sets in business, and that's really how one of the major ways we complement each other.
That's awesome.
And Crystal, I'm curious because you being the visionary and always seeing things, did you always know that you were going to be an entrepreneur?
Yes, since birth.
Wow. Wow.
My mother said from as young as 4, when people will say, "Oh, what you gonna be when you grow up?" It was, "I'm gonna be an attorney. I'm gonna own my own law firm, and
Mm.
I'm gonna hire homeless people to work for
Wow.
me." Um,
She had it all planned out, literally as a
here
child.
as a child, so I always knew, uh, growing up that I was going to own my own business. I didn't know what it was gonna be, but I knew I was going to own my business. I knew I was never meant to work for anyone else. And when I met him, our first date was a business meeting, and I needed to make
Mm.
sure he was an entrepreneur as well because I knew it was going to take an entrepreneur to be able to understand my mindset.
Yeah.
And a lot of people wait too late to ask those questions. They wait until like 2 years in to be like, "Hey," one of them say, "I've always wanted to start a business." And the other one was like,
Yeah.
"What? Hey, that's too risky." And then you're fighting each other over something that's been a goal of yours your whole life, but you didn't have those
Mhm.
conversations. So we had it first date, got it out the way.
We talk all the time about the importance of finding who's for your to dos so you can focus on your strengths. That's where Fiverr comes in. It's an affordable solution that can help you dip your toe into buying back your time. I'll never forget the first time I discovered Fiverr and realized I could have people help me in my business for as little as $5. Whether you need graphics, design, videos, animation, even music, voiceovers, or cute drawing of your family for an upcoming gift. Discovering Fiverr was a game changer. Head over to rainmakerfamily.com/deals to create your account and get your special hookup. Again, that's rainmakerfamily.com/deals.
You said in 2 months you'd start a business together, right?
Yeah.
Dang, that's the ultimate test of the relationship.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
How were the early days of business and relationship? What were some lessons you guys learned in like just in relationship or business kind of through that?
I think a big part of it is trust. So I had to trust her for her skills and her abilities, and she had to trust me. And we had to earn that trust over time. But we got to know what are each other's strengths, what are each other's weaknesses, and allowing your partner to play to their strengths and not getting in their
Yeah.
way, and then them allowing you to play to your strengths, I think is key.
And I would definitely say counseling
Yeah.
because
Yeah. We
um,
went to counseling while we were dating.
2 months
Okay,
in,
yeah.
I
Nice.
told him, I said, "Hey, listen, I want to do couples counseling." He was like,
And I
"What?
was not feeling it.
I
I
ain't doing
said,
no
I
counseling."
said, first of all, we just started dating. What are you talking about counseling? Second of all, where I come from, my background, like counseling was like taboo. It's like
He was
you
like,
don't
Right.
go
"What's wrong with me?"
and sit on the couch and tell some stranger all your problems. It just, I was
Mhm.
totally against it. And she was like, "Well,
You know
this is
what?
not optional." She's
That's
like,
right.
"If you wanna date me,
Dang.
we have to go to counseling." And I was like,
Mhm.
"Alright." So I went kicking and screaming to counseling. This is 2 or 3 months into our dating, and, by, like, the 3rd or 4th session, I'm on the couch, I'm telling the counselor all the issues and all the things that she needs to fix, and she's looking at me like, "Really?"
But it was because I knew I came from a single parent household. He came from a single parent household. Neither one of us had ever seen it done correctly, right? And watching the TV shows that we loved growing up, the Cosby's,
Yeah,
Fresh
um,
yeah.
Fresh
um,
Prince. We loved
Oh,
those
yeah.
shows, but that wasn't a reality for us. So I said, we have to make sure we go to counseling to be able to know how to communicate with each other, in
Mm,
a relationship as well as a partnership.
Yeah, wow. That's powerful. What a cool way to start a relationship,
Mhm.
because I feel like most people, they start and then it's almost like a business. It's like you
Yeah.
kinda take off sometimes and then everything breaks, right? And then you're like,
Mhm.
"Oh, now we gotta go fix everything." That was
Yeah.
kinda us. We took off in 2020, our business really took off, and, we didn't have systems. We didn't have traction. We didn't have L10s and EOS and all the
Mhm.
stuff that we have now, but we, kinda had to break things, right? And then we're like,
Mhm.
"Oh, shoot, we need structure." How
mhm.
cool is it to start with that in a relationship and start with communication, start with having
Yeah.
mentorship, you know? How have you guys seen that in your business? It sounds like you've been in masterminds, things like that. How early did you start joining like mentorships, masterminds, that type of thing?
Yeah, from the very
Yeah.
beginning, Stephen, when we got into real estate, Crystal was like right away, "Hey, we need a mentor, we need a coach." Now, of
Mhm.
course, I fought it because I fight everything she said
Yep.
at first. I can't give her an
Yeah,
easy.
yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
just
make
sing
it
it.
easy for her. But my thing was I didn't understand the value. Like I'm like, okay, why are we gonna
Mm,
pay someone tens of thousands of dollars when we can figure it out ourselves? And what I realized after fumbling around trying to figure out how to get into real
Mhm.
estate without a prior background and stumbling and almost
mhm.
brink of failure, I finally gave in. I was like, all right, let's try this mentorship thing because my way in YouTube University is not working, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we
Oh, yeah,
invested in our first, we actually joined a mastermind first. It was
cool.
$16,000. We were both still working a job. We didn't have the $16,000. I had to put it on a credit card, right? On a business credit card. And that was kind of the burn the ships moment for me. I was like, all right, I'm
Mhm.
investing all this money into getting around other high level business owners. This has to work, right? There's no option now. We've got to kind of
Mhm.
burn the steps and make this thing work because I got to pay off this credit card because I don't want to ruin my credit, over
Yeah.
here.
Man, that's awesome. What were some ROI from that first mastermind? Like, do you see a return on that investment right away, or what was the process like? Because a lot of our people, we have a mastermind that we sell. We also are in a bunch of masterminds ourselves that we're always investing in. And I think that's the big thing. They're like, "Oh, what's the ROI?" Like,
Mhm.
I'm scared to do this. I know we've learned it because like every time we jump into a mastermind, there's some sort of massive ROI, a relationship, a technique, like something. But for you guys,
Sure.
what was that first one
Yeah.
that kind of like sparked it? We're like, "Oh, we got to keep doing this."
Yeah, I would definitely say that first mastermind definitely kickstarted everything for us because we were now the lowest on the totem pole. Right? And we joined a
Mhm.
mastermind where everyone in there was already making were multimillionaires in real estate. We were coming in having done not one deal in real estate. And we were the only ones who were coming in having done no actual real
Yeah.
estate whatsoever. So for us, going into it and meeting quarterly was really that rude awakening for us. So, like, the first 2 quarters
Mhm.
we came,
You have to fly out to St. Louis, so get on a plane, spend the
Yeah,
money,
yeah.
get a hotel.
bring our kids, uh, bring Dedric's mom because she traveled with us to watch the
Yeah.
kids while we're in the conference, and we're literally there. First 2 quarters, we still had done no real estate.
And in mastermind, those who don't know, you have to get up and present what you've done in your
Mhm.
what's working, what's not working.
Okay,
And
yeah.
2 or 3 trips out there, we had nothing going. It wasn't for lack of trying, we were trying it, but we just weren't successful yet. And, by the 3rd trip, Crystal was like,
Yeah, we're
"We're
not
not
doing
we're
this.
not coming back out here having 0 deals closed. So we either better
Mhm.
Yeah.
close the deals or we're not coming back out here again because we're wasting our time." In
And
between that moment and the next time we went out, we had closed like 10 deals and
with the
kinda
Wow.
help of so many people in that mastermind being like,
guiding us, yeah.
"Listen, this is what you need to do. Pivot, do this, do that. Focus on your area's focus should be here," and giving us just so
Uh,
many different tips to
mm,
actually start it. That's what really jump started the real estate business for us, as well as ironically the TV show. Also
well,
is just a tip from the head of the mastermind telling us
Yeah.
Dedric, we had a problem with, Dedric's like, hey, how do I get private money investors? And
To
he
buy
was
more
to
deals.
buy more deals. And he was like, listen, you guys are a great looking couple. He was like, but you're not on social media. You're not advertising what you do. He was like, start posting what you do every
Okay.
day. Post what you're doing, show people that you're doing it. He was like, people are going to be lined up to invest with you. That's what he did. I'm super private. So I was like, is there any other way? Like, and Dedric was like, okay, all right, cool. That's what we need to do. All right. So he started posting and he was
Okay.
posting every day. And from that posting, we started to get more and more private investors because they was like, hey, y'all are really doing this real estate thing. Oh, this is great.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
that's also how so many networks started to find us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang.
I'm
That's awesome.
curious what your guys' process is because Krystal, you pointed out like you were reluctant to be on social media, but way to go for you, like doing what your mentor said, because so many people will hear advice and pay for the mastermind, but not actually do the work. So kudos to you guys.
Yeah.
But I want to say, Krystal, like, I think that you can be like on social media and sharing about your product, your service, but also know that there are certain areas that you might not want to share about. Like, I would say we're very much like on social media sharing things, but there are also things that we're not sharing too. So like for you, how did
Absolutely.
you find that cadence and balance or breakthrough? Maybe that fear or like, I'm private, so therefore I can't do this. What was your thought process to getting over that?
So my thought process was it's business, right?
Mhm.
So we're sharing the business aspect of what we do. We're sharing and showing people that we're doing this business, right? And
Mhm.
we're doing it as a couple, as a family with our kids. Once the business stops, the posting stops, right? So I tell people we're not, and I told Daddy, we're not in a community relationship. Right? So the moment you
Mhm.
start posting too much about your personal relationship on social media, it becomes open to the community. So people then feel that they have a right to comment on it. And if I wanted anyone's opinion, then I would definitely ask them for it. So I told
Yeah.
them our private life will remain just that. And it's crazy
Absolutely.
because we have a TV show and
Yeah.
social media, and we still now we'll post little things like, hey, if we're out at a basketball game with our sons, we'll post, clips and highlights of them at the game and things of that
But
nature.
there's a line. Like we don't
But
post every meal we eat and everything the kids
Yeah.
do. Like there's a line that we gotta, show people what we want to show, but we like to keep some of our life private.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's so good. What do you think is like one of the biggest challenges in building a business, building wealth, but staying family first, right? Like protecting the marriage, protecting the family in the midst of it.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy. I think you have to have boundaries. Like with us, when we first got started, we used to work weekends, work, all nighters, all that stuff. Now we still occasionally will work late and, be in our computers late doing certain work. But now weekends are pretty much off limits, right? Weekends is strictly family time. So, you got to draw those boundaries, whether it's not working weekends or cutting off the phone at a certain time so that, you don't neglect your family life.
yeah. But starting out, that's never going to be the case. Really, for anyone who's really out there and they're grinding and they're trying to build something that outlives them, like we were doing.
It's going to be imbalanced at first.
It absolutely is, but we had a great support system. So when I say like Dedric's mom would travel with us everywhere we went, my mom would keep
That's
them
awesome.
anytime they were in town. So with all of our family being like, hey, go do what you guys have to do. We got the kids, don't worry about it. In the beginning, putting in all of that sweat equity and that hard work paid off. And what we like to tell people is getting in all these mastermind and private coaching really shortened our learning curve. So instead of us having to do this for 10 years
Taking 10 years.
of our life, it took us 2.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's how big. What about like, we see the highlight reels on Instagram. But I think something that is unique about you guys, you keep it real, right? Not everyone's keeping it real, being as authentic on social media. What's like a hard lesson you've learned in the journey that you would like reach back if, one of our moms was like, she's new at building business and she's looking forward. What's something you could share with her? That's like a story, something like that. That's like, man, this is something, if I could save you the pain of not having to go through that thing, like what would that be in business or family? It could be either one.
Hmm,
That's a good question.
that's a great question. I would probably say being too trusting in the beginning,
Mhm.
right? You don't know what you don't know. And for us, we were, we always want to operate in integrity.
Mhm.
So we were trusting people early on to say that they're going to do what they say they're going to do. They are who they say they are. And then learning that they weren't.
Yeah.
And for us, we had to learn everyone's not going to operate like us. Everyone's not going to keep their word. Everyone isn't who they actually say they are. So, like, for example, we had a deal in Boston. So we do virtual investing. And when we first started out, we had property, our very first 6-figure wholesale deal. One of Dedric's friends was like, "Hey, I'll do the acquisitions down there." He had seen us, saw all we were doing on social media, told Dedric, "Hey, I'll handle anything you have here in Boston. Contact me. I got you." Dedric's like, "Great." He was like, "Hey, can you go and see if you can, we found this property as a squatter. Go speak to the squatter." He was like, "Oh, I got you." Da-da-da. He went to the property, left. He was like, "Yeah, no one was there." Um, and that was it. And so then we sent our realtor over there who had found the buyer, squatters there. He negotiated with the squatter, spoke to the squatter, negotiated cash for keys, um, and ended up really handling the deal from there on out, getting the squatters out, close on the property. We still ended up giving this guy a $10,000 check because it was 10% of what we made
Okay,
Mhm.
yeah.
on the property, having done nothing, right? Because we
Yeah,
operate in integrity. And
yeah.
then on the flip side, we had another property he was in on, and he said, "Hey, I'm gonna bring the buyer. Don't worry." They're just like, "Let me cancel the contract because you don't really, you're not bringing anyone yet." He was like, "No, I got the buyer. I got the buyer. He just needs some more time." Needless to say, he never brought the buyer. We ended up losing 5,000. He said, "Oh, I will pay half of it. I apologize. I'll pay half of it." We was like, "Okay, great." Come time to pay it, he's not answering phone calls anymore.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's hard. It's the worst when it's like a friend too. It just hits you in the heart
Exactly.
harder. It's like, oh man. We're big believers in like, people they don't believe what they say they believe what they do, and the actions speak really loud
Mhm.
in moments like that.
Yep.
So way to go, you guys choosing the integrous path too. Even like, hey, we said we'd pay you, we're gonna pay you,
Mhm.
even though this makes no sense.
No sense.
Yeah.
Uh, man, yeah, we definitely. I feel like sometimes I feel like those are tests. It's kind of like tests of like. I mean, we believe in God and we believe this is like sometimes you get these like opportunities for promotion, and
Mhm.
it's like who can I trust with money? And we believe if God can get it through you, He'll get it to you. And
Absolutely.
and it's kind of like one of those things. Like I feel like when you
Mhm.
do those things, you get promoted. Like
Oh,
you
Mhm.
yeah.
get.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
I
the
can trust you with
universe
more.
or
Like I was
God.
like that was not even for him. That was
Mhm.
for me.
Mhm.
There
Exactly.
you go.
I've had so many moments like that where I'm like, I know you want the money and like you think this is for you, but this is for me. I'm giving you the money because this is for me. And testing my heart to see if I'm going to operate in integrity. And those are
Absolutely.
those are the hard ones sometimes. But
Mhm.
proud of you guys for doing that. It's epic.
Yeah.
Man, it's good. Okay, I would say let's talk about real estate a little bit because I think our audience, like I think a lot of people say they want to do real estate, but they're not really
Mhm.
sure how or what. Or like real estate is such like a broad term too. People are like, oh, real estate. It like sounds so cool, but there's all these different ways. And you guys
Mhm.
mentioned wholesale. And a lot of people don't even know what like wholesale is, like wholesaling real estate. So can you break that down a little bit, like the wholesaling model? And maybe walk us through a couple of your first, wholesale deals and like what that looked like. Cause I think that might open some people's eyes on how you can actually start growing wealth through some of these methods when you might have these beliefs like, oh, I can never do
Mhm.
real estate. I need
Yeah.
hundreds of $1,000s to do this. Yeah, break it down a little bit. I think that'd be cool for our audience.
Yeah, absolutely, Steven. So wholesaling real estate, it's wholesaling is just in any business, right? I know you guys do Amazon, teach people how to sell on
Yeah, yeah.
Amazon. It's the same concept, right? You get a widget or, an iPhone, you get it at a wholesale price, you mark it up, right? You sell it for a little bit more than what you got it for. People don't realize is that you can do the same thing with houses, right? So with wholesaling houses, what you need to find is a really motivated seller. So let's say you found somebody who has a bunch of inventory and they just got evicted from their warehouse and they don't have time to put
Mm,
it on marketplace and sell it, right? They need to liquidate that product. Same thing with
Yeah.
houses. So at any one point in time, there's about 1 to 2% of property owners that are in distress. Either they just lost their job, they
Mhm.
just got divorced, they inherited a property because grandma passed away and they need to liquidate. They
Totally.
don't want to own
Mhm.
it. They want to liquidate. That's where investors like us come in. Well, we do marketing to find those people. We'll get the property in the contract at a very low wholesale price. And then we'll assign that contract to another party who's a fix and flip investor who has cash who actually close on it in our place. And we make
Wow.
the
Mhm.
fee for being a matchmaker, right? For bringing the seller and the buyer
Mhm.
together. We make a fee. And what I didn't realize is that you don't need a real estate license to do that, right? Any
Right.
contract signable, meaning you can assign or nominate someone else to step in your place in any contract unless it explicitly says it's not. So it's a great way
Wow.
for people to get started in real estate without a ton of cash because you're not actually buying the property. You're just tying it up in the contract and then flipping
Mhm.
your paper to someone else for a fee. And a typical wholesale fee is between $10,000 to $15,000, depending on what area you're located in the country.
Dang, that's awesome.
Wow. That's
What are the
cool.
risks? Like people are thinking like, oh my gosh, like what if I'm stuck with the contract or like
Mhm.
what are like kind of the risks, so to say, when you're trying to wholesale and like getting a property under contract, that type of thing.
Yeah, yeah, so that's one of the risks, and that was one of my fears, right? I'm like, "All
Yeah.
right, what if I get this property in the contract, but I can't find
Yeah.
a buyer, right?
Yeah.
Am I stuck having to pay a $250,000 or what have you?" And that's why we have what's called out clauses or exit clauses in the contract.
Oh,
So, for
Mm.
example, in a contract, we may say, "Hey, we have a 25-day inspection period." So during that period, if we aren't able to find a buyer, right, to assign a contract in within that 25 days before the end of it, we'll go ahead and terminate the contract. So that will
got it.
allow us to terminate the contract and not be in the hook from buying it. And then all we have at risk is that your earnest money deposit. And typically the deposit we put down is like $100 to tie up the property. So
Wow.
not a ton of risk, not a ton of money on the line.
Yeah, that's epic. That's so cool. I mean, I feel like you're opening some people's eyes because I remember the
Yeah.
first time I heard about wholesaling, I'd never heard that, like even model. I was like, oh
Mm.
no, you have to buy houses, it's like
Mhm.
properties, you got to put the money down yourself. I mean, even the money side of things, talk about that a little bit because there's so many creative ways to
Mm.
finance properties and, and,
Mhm.
and not just real estate, but business.
Yeah.
I feel like I've learned from real estate guys how to finance Amazon businesses. And we brought some of that training to our students of like, hey, did you know you can do this? You can do
Yeah.
that. But what's some creative ways you guys have kind of found money for properties or things like that?
Yeah, I mean, creative financing is huge because most
Yeah.
people think if you're going to buy an investment property, you need to either have all cash, a couple 100,000 sitting in the bank, and if you're in California, it's close to 1 million, or
Yeah.
you need to put down 25%, right? Most people don't
Mhm.
have that type of cash sitting around. So we actually sought out a mentor to teach us this. And we met a
Mhm.
mentor in this area who owns 200 or 300 properties that he's acquired through creative financing. So
Wow.
not going to
Wow.
the banks, not having to show pay stubs, no tax returns, just literally talking to a property owner, and let's say they own the property free and clear, they have no mortgages, they want to sell, and they're asking 350,000 for the property. Most real estate investors would need to buy that at like 50%, 50 cents on a dollar to be able to make a profit on it, right? But as an
Mhm.
investor who knows creative financing, you can say, okay, sir, I'll give you 350,000 if we can structure it like this. I'll give you $15,000 down. I'll owe you 335,000 and I'll pay you, let's say, 1,500 bucks a month for the next 10 years or 20
Oh,
years. So
yeah.
simply payment. So now you're getting a property for 2 or 3% down that you now own. And then the monthly mortgage payment that goes to the seller, you rent out the property and your tenant's paying you and you pay the mortgage from the money you get from the tenant. So there's so many creative
Mhm.
ways to buy real estate again with no license, but most people just aren't educated like we weren't until we sought out a
Yeah.
mentor who taught us these creative financing strategies.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
so cool.
That's so cool. I love it. I love like just when people like once you start we kind of talk about you know, sometimes you just don't know the power sign because you just don't know about it, right? And I
Mhm.
think money is one of those things where when you learn how to access money, how to use money in creative
Mhm.
ways, it really starts breaking off some of these limiting beliefs of like, oh,
Mhm.
I can't build wealth. I can't own real estate. I'll have to rent the rest of my life. And we had someone else on the show too who was like, that's how they got into all the properties that they were in, just even personally, right? They kind of
Mhm.
did some sort of creative financing and seller financing thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, one of the things we see in Rainmakers is the how can I, right? We never like, I can't, it's always like, how could we do this? Is there a way
Mhm.
we could do this?
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, I mean, we've
yeah,
even bought
Yeah.
properties on credit cards.
yeah,
So
That's awesome.
So many
Man.
different ways. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for being on today's show and just sharing so much about business, doing things together, some of the hard things about business, the good things, and then even leading our listeners into more about real estate and just opening their eyes to what's possible. If our listeners want to get connected with you, hear more about what you're doing, where's the best place that they can find you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So two places. One is our website. Our website is called Polite Wealth Portal. So we teach people how to get started investing in real estate, politewealthportal.com. And then also Be Polite. So on social media, all things Be Polite properties, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, etc. If you just look up Be Polite, if you have any questions about how to get started in real estate, feel free to reach out to us. And we do a ton of free trainings as well. So once a month, we'll do a free class where we teach anyone who has no prior experience in real estate how to get into the game.
Awesome.
And we do that for free as well.
That's so cool,
Awesome.
you guys.
Well, Dedric, Krystal, thank you guys so much for being here. This is an awesome episode. If you guys are listening to the show, you want to share it with a friend, share it with someone who needs this today. And we always encourage our listeners, find something in here to take action on.
Mhm.
Find something that's stirring in you. Like, I'm going to go do this thing, whether it's a piece of wisdom or following these guys on socials, connecting with them deeper, go do it. All right. So thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, thank
We'll
you.
see you guys on the next show.
We appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Rainmaker Family Show. If you're not a part of our mastermind yet, I want to say I think you're missing out. Our heart here at Rainmakers is to create total abundance for you. That's why we're offering a free one-on-one family freedom design session for you, our faithful listener.
Yeah, if you want to hop on a call with our team, see if it's a good fit to build a business that creates time freedom for you, financial abundance, and helps you leave that thriving family legacy. That's what we're all about in our mastermind. You can grab a time on our team's calendar at rainmakerfamily.com/mastermind. Again, that's rainmakerfamily.com/mastermind.